Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Rock Topic Podcast. We are on episode 3, I believe, and we're doing this on kind of just the beginnings of learning how to play the guitar. And I'm here once again with
Zane. That is me, the co-host and best friend of Colton.
Awesome. Just a couple of bros, hanging out, having a good time.
Yep. Couple guitarist bros now.
Yeah. Not super guitar bros, though, unfortunately, because that name already exists. No. They're on YouTube, and they're people. So I want to bring this up quick. Just the story of you and me on episode 2. On episode 2, when
Oh God, you're already laughing.
That's not good. But on episode 2, when I started into the episode, and I was like, I'm here once again with who I thought was going to be guest, but is now co-host Zane. And you were like, oh, word?
You just laid that on me.
Yeah.
When you let everyone... I found out when you all found out.
Oh, I thought that was great. Well, anyway, Zane, what's the purpose? What are we talking about today? Even though I already said it.
We are going to discuss just starting out on guitar, man. Picking it up, learning how to play.
So, I think I have a story that may relate to this. Zane, have you started playing guitar recently?
Oh, I think I have.
Nice.
I have started.
Awesome. What's that been like, all in all?
Overwhelmingly positive. Like, if I had to sum up my entire experience, it's just positive.
Awesome. Yeah, it's definitely... It's good to have positive morale, especially early. Because, I feel
until
like...
bar chords came along.
Yeah. Bar chords. Oh, gosh. I feel like the way I look at guitar and how it goes learning it, it's one of those things where you have this kind of bell curve, I feel like, where right away you're excited and you're ready to go and you're super pumped, and so you work at it a lot and it's really fun and you're like, yes, I'm doing things, and okay. And then you're like, okay, now I'm struggling, but we're getting there. And then you get up that little hill, and then once you get the basics down, you start learning things like crazy, right? Like you start advancing and learning things a lot, and you really start taking off. And then after taking off and being at that kind of like beginner, standard beginner stage, where you kind of got your fingers around the fretboard a little bit, you kind of hit a wall over time, and then you really get stuck. But where would you say you probably are? Are you still kind of on that accelerated, like, there's a lot I'm learning right now and it's coming to me fairly easy?
So, I was all until I got to these bar chords, man. Because that is like the first blocker I've had with my guitar experience. Because when I first started, what I love about guitar, especially first starting with it, is that unlike any other instrument that I've learned or tried to learn to play, you immediately sound nice while playing. Like, the second you learn a few, like, scales here and there, you could make it sound nice.
Really?
Like,
that's an interesting take.
So you always...
I would say, I would almost argue that it goes, at least for me, I kind of felt opposite in that regard, because to me, a piano, I started my instrument, life on piano, like yourself. And I feel like with piano, you hit the key and it sounds good. With a guitar, there's a lot of muscle memory involved before you even get a single note to sound decent. You know what I mean? Zane, I feel like you might have cut out here. Hello? Zane, come on back.
Hello?
There you are.
Oh, what happened? So what's the last thing you heard?
You were talking about how it sounds good naturally. How it sounds good right away, and I made my case that I feel like it would almost be to me guitar was a little almost discouraging in that way because with a piano which we both started on, you press a key or two keys or three keys and you immediately make a chord that sounds good. With guitar, I would argue that you need a lot of muscle memory to even make a single note sound decent. You know what I mean?
Oh, well, in that regard, yeah. But
You're
like,
saying once you get over that hill?
yeah, like
Okay.
once you can hit a note and it rings out clear, just going up and down the one I learned first and the one that I did a lot of my like improvising or trying to get better with moving my fingers around the frets was the E minor pentatonic scale.
Yes, indeed.
And
That's
like
where we all
if
start.
you look at a whole bunch of songs, even like AC/DC is a lot. They're nestled up in there, They're
Yep.
so you learn a
Master.
few of these scales, and then you realize that all these great guitarists that like everyone loves, and all these songs that you listen to and say that's a meaty, nice riff. It's like 4 or 5 notes up and down just a scale.
Yeah.
So
It's
it's
like
like,
usually I think like most AC/DC songs especially are like three chords. Green Day is very similar, except Green Day is typically faster. That kind of thing. Actually,
oh
I'll
yeah, yeah,
if you don't mind, I'll take the spotlight for just a second and just say that
you
like
go for it.
kind of speaking of Green Day, they were probably the band that made it the most encouraging for me to start playing guitar because of that simplistic song nature. I really liked how they sounded, when I was in like middle school, and I was like, oh, Green Day, cool. And then when I got my first guitar, I think I was a freshman in high school, I want to say, but I remember learning a lot of Green Day songs really early on. I think the first song I ever learned was When I Come Around, where I actually learned
Okay.
chords to a song, because you learn that one power chord shape, and then that power chord immediately has now become, uh, this power chord. You can just move it wherever, and it basically sounds good anywhere. So then
Move it wherever.
you start playing these shapes that you start to kind of gain pattern knowledge through those shapes, and you realize that so many Green Day songs are just three chords, that same power chord though, just moved to different places on the neck. So When I Come Around and Basket Case, and one of my favorites is off of their Insomniac, whatever that album's called. Not Brain Stew. Brain Stew is a good one too. I learned that one pretty early, but there's just
I'm not familiar with the Green Day
yeah.
music.
Well, Brain Stew, that's the one everybody. That's like the dun it, dun it, dun
Oh
it,
my god. Okay.
dun it, dun it, dun it. I'm having trouble trying to sleep. Oh gosh, I
See,
I
I
love Billy
take I
Joe.
take a I take a tad bit not offense, but um what's the word I'm looking for? I don't know. But how you casually just say once you learn that shape, you can just move it up like anywhere. But for me, moving chords like that is something that I need to work on. For some reason, that's
Huh?
challenging to me. Like
Like
to
to
make a
to
shape and
hold
then
your
to like
hand in the same shape and move it.
uh, yeah, and move it without like hitting wrong
Yeah, it does take
strings
time.
or
And I'll be honest, you know how I say, once you learn to move it, because I can guarantee you when I first when I first started playing When I Come Around, I remember sitting there on Christmas when I got my first guitar, and it was just garbage. Here, if you take the mic for a second, I'll grab my guitar. I'll show you roughly what it sounded like.
That's how I'm feeling with because I started learning Nirvana because I think Nirvana is gonna be my quote unquote beginner like easy band for chords.
Yeah.
But when I was because the other day I was playing Come As You Are and I realized that like the solo of that song is you literally just use one finger and like you slide it up and down. So I was trying to do that and for some reason it just wasn't sounding good. Just sliding up and down the fretboard with a single chord shape to make it sound nice is really
Yeah, it
struggling.
is. It
I
is
really
difficult.
struggle.
well, that's the thing with guitar in general. Guitar is just not an easy instrument all around, I feel like it's one of the tougher learning curves, especially if you do anything like fretless.
Yeah. All right, play for us how it sounded.
This thing is so unbelievably out of tune. I just needed to. Actually, that would probably more accurately reflect what it sounded like. So maybe I'll only tune the first three, or I'll tune the first four strings, but not very well. There we go.
Like almost there.
Yeah, just a little flat, but it literally sounded like this. You'd take about a minute to get your fingers in the right shape for the first chord, so you'd have, and then you'd pause. It'd be like,
And like that's what you're showing right now. I think is a fantastic, um, like, concept to discuss. That
yeah,
the like all for every player, they started there.
mm-hmm.
Eddie Van Halen, Steve Vai,
Mm-hmm.
they all started there.
Yep.
So when I hit a note that sounds bad, and I'm like, man, I'm never gonna learn this. How many times do you think
They
Eddie
said that, yeah.
or whatever, they all thought that too?
Yeah. Well, I'll even show you, like, for example, I always thought that. I was like, goodness, this is going to take me forever. And now, like, once I can hold that chord position and move it all over the place, it just comes, just a lot easier, to the point where I don't even think about it. Just really, it just goes, right? But we definitely started at...
Started? I'm still there.
We all came from there, or are there, or if you're going to start guitar, you will be there.
Yes. That is a comfortable position that everyone starts in. It's not, maybe not comfortable, but it's a reality that all guitarists have to go through.
For sure. Yeah, all right. So I guess, like, the other thing too is I wanted to talk about this as well. Zane, how old are you?
I am 20.
20. So listen to it, like, hear ye, you heard it here first, ladies and gentlemen. Zane is not a child prodigy. He did not start when he was 4 and his parents forced him to practice for 2 hours every night or no dinner. There was none of that. You know what I mean? Like, he's just picking it up out of passion. He's 20 years old. He has a job.
You want to know what happened?
Well, let's hear it. Let's hear the story.
What happened was, I love rock music. It's my main genre of music. Listen to it all the time, and I love listening to all these, like, guitar songs and solos, and I'm just like, man, that's so cool. I would love to play that. And I do have a musical background, but I've never decided to pick up guitar for some reason. I probably would have started a lot sooner if I showed interest in that.
Yeah.
But here I am, 20 years old. Like, maybe like 3 months ago, I'm just chilling, just looking on my phone, and I decide to just look up guitars for some reason. I don't know why I wanted to, but I was looking at them, looking at how cool they look.
It's because they're pretty, that's
why. I see the Squire Stratocaster for like $180 used. I'm like, okay, for some reason I just added that to my cart. I don't know why, but I wasn't going to buy it there.
It's the start of a long spiral. It's known as GAS. And GAS, GAS, is short for Gear Acquisition Syndrome. And we all get it.
And I keep looking, and I see this used, like, $35 amp. Slap that in the cart. I'm looking at it. I'm like, wait a minute. I have way more than enough money to buy this. I'm just gonna do it. I hit purchase. I put in my information, And like 7 days later, they came in, and that's how I started. 20 years old.
That's awesome. And that's the thing too is like, are you, you feel at points where you're like, ah, I'm just too old for this, or I'm just whatever. It's like,
I have.
yeah, I mean, that it happens, right? Where you get that assumption, right? Well, because I'm not a developing brain child, I'm not going to be able to absorb this as well. And
Well,
I don't know. I mean, I personally, I haven't tried to learn uh I haven't tried to learn guitar, being 20 because I haven't even been 20 yet. I'm not even 19 yet. But
that's true.
I at the same time though, I started guitar as
At what, 14?
yeah, I was a
Yeah,
freshman in
14.
high school, so yeah, I'd be about 14. So, I mean, it's not like I was playing since I was 6 either, Uh, I just feel like guitar is one of those things, and I feel like with most things, maybe it won't come as easy as it would have if you would have started when you were like a little kid, but I don't believe in the fact. I mean, maybe my life experiences will change this thought, but personally, I don't know if I believe in, um, not like, oh, I can't do it because I'm too old now. My brain just doesn't work like that.
Hmm.
I don't know if I subscribe to that yet. Maybe I'll get old and that'll come to me eventually, but thus
Well, because
far,
the reason that this usually that you get this feeling that you're like too old is because like if you look at all the guitar greats, because two of my biggest
yeah,
inspirations, the two
true.
people that definitely made me pick up guitar are Jimi Hendrix and Stevie Ray Vaughan.
Mhm.
They're my two they're my two go-tos. I listen to their music probably the majority of each day, every day. I love their music. I can never get enough of it. And if you look at their history, Stevie Ray Vaughan started at like 3 years old, and Jimi Hendrix started at like 3 years old, and they were given like these little instruments to practice on, and they just stuck with it from a young age. Um,
Just as
so if
much
like you
as
look at
that
that,
is how much they accomplish by a certain age.
yeah, so you look at that and you're like, well, how can I become as good or at least be able to play stuff like Jimi Hendrix or Stevie Ray Vaughan if I didn't start there? But as you heard, I'm already through like half of Purple Haze, and I've
Mhm.
only been practicing it for a week.
Yeah.
So it's not impossible.
Exactly. And that's the other thing too is that's just it too. I feel like almost reverse of what you said in a way that a lot of times you hear or you see in, your guitar greats that you're looking at and you're like, "Wow, like this person has been, they're my age and they're already doing this and I'm not."
Mm,
But you got to think about the years put in, right? If they started when they're 3 and now they're 25, that's 22 years of working on a craft. Whereas
yeah,
if you're 25, or even if you're 20 and you're looking at like, wow, could I accomplish that by the time I'm 25? Well, no, because they've put 22 years in and you would have only put in 5. You know what I mean? It's not about
yeah.
age, it's about time spent. You know what I mean? So if you want to be as good as Jimi Hendrix, play for as long as Jimi Hendrix played. And
Hmm.
the thing is you're not going to, especially by that point, you're not going to sound like Jimi Hendrix, but the thing is no one's ever going to sound
You
like
shouldn't
Jimi
aim
Hendrix.
to. Yeah, yeah.
No
You
one
shouldn't
is.
aim to
No
sound
one's
like
ever
someone
going to sound
else.
like Eddie Van Halen. No one's ever going to sound like Jimmy Page, like all these guys. Like it's all about you and finding your voice on the instrument. Um you can certainly borrow things from all of them and that's how you create a style is taking your favorite things from your favorite guitar players, but it's a whole journey. It's a life journey to go through and just experience what it's like to learn the instrument and whatever. I don't know, I just definitely think it's something that everybody should at least consider doing, and if not, if you really, really are against getting it really deep into music, it's like for guitar, if you're really scared by like music theory and stuff like that, first I would say, please don't worry about it. That'll come a lot easier when you get to that stage in your, journey playing guitar. Just pick it up if you want to do it. But otherwise, there are even more simple instruments out there that are, just that can be very fun as well. I won't say just as fun because there's nothing as fun as playing the guitar. But I will say, for example, on the one of my recent Riffjaw episodes, I reviewed this Hohner Marine Band harmonica that I got, and the harmonica is a very easy instrument to learn, but it's one that can kind of take you a long way too. You know, ukulele that comes fairly easy. You know, and it's similar to guitar, but
No,
it's
there's fantastic ukulele music out there.
yeah, for
That's just
sure.
as like revered as guitar.
Yeah, and honestly, oh, actually, I'm gonna take a quick segue off that. Did I ever tell you about the time that uh, I can't remember who had it. A friend of mine had an electric ukulele. I plugged it into my amp.
Electric ukulele.
Yeah, well, it's just meant to like, plug it in so you can have it be loud enough to play live.
Yeah, yeah.
But I instead, I took the uke and plugged it into my amp under high distortion and started just doing like
Oh
tapping
God.
licks and shredding on the ukulele, and it was the best feeling ever. And I use shred very lightly. I cannot shred. That's not what I mean. I just mean that I was playing to the best of my ability rather fast in my speed range. I'm not going to claim to be able to shred because I cannot.
But as the to go a little bit back to your music points,
Yeah,
I think that Stevie Wonder says it the best. That music is a language that everyone can understand. There's
that is a
no
great quote. A very great
you're
quote.
not gonna you're not gonna confuse anyone with music. Well, I mean, depending on how they're looking into it, but it doesn't matter what culture, where you're from in the world, what kind of music you're playing, or what instrument. If
Yeah,
someone hears it, they're gonna know music.
exactly.
It's like it's just because you see all these guitar players and they'll get on stage and they will pour their hearts out in that instrument, and you're like, that's amazing, that's so cool. But then there's freaking saxophone players who will do the same thing,
Piano
and then you
players.
look at these orchestras of like 60 people and they're all on time, they're all loving their instrument, they're all like, it's like music is such a wonderful medium
It
for
is,
everything you can express. Like all types of music is just something that I think everyone needs
for
in their
sure.
soul. Personally,
For
I
sure.
think that.
I agree with that. Like another good thing is this is a great example too. Like the reason why music is so interesting is like, okay, everybody listening, read me or like say like try to think out loud right now. Think of and say out loud what was the last paragraph of the last thing you read out of a book. Tell me that. You can't, right? Now,
I was like,
yeah, yeah. Now tell me what's the chorus to your favorite song and maybe the first verse. You could probably sing,
oh,
you could tell me that whole thing probably. You know what I mean?
yep, yes,
That's what I'm talking about. It just music is this, it's not even a physical thing like the instruments are and that sort of thing, but the actual music that you hear, it's not a physical object. It's nothing that, is physically there. It's just these waves that make you feel things. It's so cool.
but that's why people use music for so many things. Like,
Yeah.
oh man, I'm having, I need to, push out this long essay I have to write before midnight. Listen to some music. Like
La
people
Via
do that.
Strangiato by
Oh,
Rush.
I need to, or oh, I'm working overnight as I do. I'm working overnight and it's really boring because I don't have a single person coming in my store for, you know, hours at a time. Just listen to music. It's
Mm-hmm.
like music fills the space of so much emptiness in this world.
Mm-hmm. I,
It's
I agree.
it's amazing.
I feel like okay, this is a topic for another podcast, but just I
Oh, here we
feel like
go. Episode 4 right here.
yeah, we'll have to see, but I definitely think that we're losing, or rather we're going too far in that direction in like modern music, how where music is now more becoming just noise to fill the silence as opposed to art. You know what I mean? In a way,
Mm,
in a lot of like modern stuff, and that all is because of
yeah,
money, right? Like, what does the industry want? The industry want what can make. They want what makes money. What makes money?
for
Individual
sure.
artists, so they only have to pay one person. What makes more money? Individual artists who make a lot of songs really quickly. And how do
Hmm.
you do that? By not really putting your heart into them and just you come up with something catchy and then put it out.
Well, that's what I don't mean to. This is gonna be a quick point on that real quick
Yeah, we
because
should get back to
I
the
was
main
watching a
topic.
video
But
the other day, and they were discussing One Direction, and they were comparing so many songs that One Direction has like sampled from or what it sounds like, and people think that it's like a conspiracy, I guess, that because so many of their songs sound like The Who or other like rock bands that have these catchy songs,
that's interesting.
and they think that um, they're doing it on purpose to intentionally get controversy, so people will talk about them more because of money.
Yeah,
So
exactly. It's just runs the world. But anyway, I guess we can hop back over. So Zane, what do you do as far as like I have like a practice schedule, but I really don't. I didn't for the longest time. I really didn't. I just kind of played, But do you have any kind of practice schedule? If so, what is it? And if not, what kind of schedule or practice regimen do you kind of hope to get on? Or do you believe in a practice regimen? Or what are your thoughts?
so obviously, I believe that practicing is probably the biggest key to success with anything. You know,
Yep.
so I don't personally have like a practice schedule. I mean, I won't even play the guitar every single solitary day, but the thing for me is since I've got the guitar, when I first got it, I played it every day for like 2 months. Now I've been like getting a little like sometimes I'll instead of playing, I'll like research stuff on the fretboard or
Mm-hmm.
like different notes or whatever without even playing, and then I'll wait till next day and see if I can play what I researched. Um, but I wouldn't say I have like a set schedule thing. But when I actually pick up my guitar and I plug into my amp, I don't put my guitar down for at least 2 to 3 hours.
Yeah,
Um,
I definitely was a lot more like that. I still am in a way. Like I do that from time to time, but what I'm doing now is actually a practice schedule that was I kind of stole it from Tyler Larson at Music Is Win. He brought this up in one of his recent videos. I thought it was pretty cool. It was something like 5 habits all great guitar players have or whatever, and one of the habits was a good like a real practice schedule. And I was like, you know what? I've never really had that, and I've noticed that I've kind of hit a point in my playing after playing for a few years now where I can do basic improvisation. I can do, I'm fairly knowledgeable with some basic music theory. I know, certain the basic chords. I can play some scales. I can, I'm proficient in what I've needed thus far in my guitar playing, but going any further than where I am is going to take something, and I realized that. And I was like, all right, you know what? Maybe I will start getting on a practice schedule. So now I practice every day for at least an hour, and um, I have it divvied up into 15-minute intervals. So I practice 1 hour a day, and I do 4 different like topics for 15 minutes. So it kind of stays interesting. I have like exercises like speed, working on alternate picking speed and stuff like that. Scales, which is trying to get proficient at running my scales and knowing how my scales fit together and all that stuff. Chords, which currently in my practicing of chords, I'm working with understanding triads and triad inversions and how they fit and, writing stuff with triads. Sight reading,
that's the
which
Jimi
is
Hendrix thing, right?
yeah, yeah. Hendrix used a lot of triads in all of his music. That's why it sounds so unique. Um, Sight reading, which is really hard for me. I've never read music with guitar, and I'm really bad at reading music in any other instrument that I play. So I'm very much an
Nice.
intuitive musician, not a sight reading musician. But it's good to work on that too. So I have that in there. Number 5 is music theory, which is just studying theory and all about music theory. I'm taking like a course on it. And then songwriting, which I devote that time to working on lyrics and melody and, writing bass and drum part and all that stuff. General music songwriting for my album that I'm working on and that sort of thing. And then number 7 is improv, where I just put on a backing track and solo and work on my licks and, soloing. And then ear training, where I will put on a solo of a song and I will try to learn that solo by ear. And so the rule
Nice.
that I do with that is it's 4 blocks each day, right? And I just make sure that I can't skip one of them for more than 2 days. So, for example, this is my schedule from when I started. I've only been doing it for a few days. But, so for example, my first day I did exercises, chords, ear training, and scales. And then the next day I did theory, improv, songwriting, and exercises. So now what I missed is I didn't have sight reading in there at all, or I think that was the only one I missed was sight reading I didn't have. So then the next day I did sight reading, exercises, chords, and ear training. So you just kind of make sure that every third day you look and see what you've missed the last 2 days. So that way you always touch on stuff regularly, and you're covering a lot of bases, and you're not drowning on this one topic for way too long.
Nice.
And I know that's kind of a lot to take in as a practice schedule, but once you kind of get in the rhythm of doing it, like you wake up and that's like part of your morning, and it becomes a routine, it's a lot easier to maintain and keep doing.
Well, I feel like that's the case with anything you
Yeah,
make part of
true,
your
true,
routine.
true. Now I know one thing that Zane and I talked about off camera at one point was talking about, well, how do you practice? And how do you practice is a really great question, and it's one I had for a long time too. Um, and the way I would put it is you have to have like 2 parts to practicing, right? You have to have like everything that like I just listed, which would just be a routine, because just to have a setup of knowing what you're going to do, how long you're going to do it for, so you don't like cheat yourself out of time. And then the other thing is specifically like, what am I going to do with my fingers to work on these things? So, for example, if you're working with improv, it's like, well, how do I learn improv? Well, you always have to start somewhere, and I feel like it's very difficult, to try to just be like, yeah, I know what's going on, because nobody knows what's going on when they
Oh
start.
yeah, that's what yesterday when I told you that I like finally the other day I decided to play some slow blues with a blues backing track,
Mm-hmm.
all improv. That
Mm-hmm.
was scary
Mm-hmm.
and it sounded absolutely terrible in the beginning, but I decided to just get comfortable with the backing track and I was like, "Come on, Zane! Like, come on, fingers! You know these scales,
Yeah.
like." And then I just replayed it. I centered myself and I just started playing nice and slow. If I hit a note that didn't sound good, I didn't like start over. I'm just gonna play through it.
Mm-hmm.
And
That's what you
then
have to do.
towards the middle, it sounded so good. I loved every second of it.
Mm-hmm. I will say improv and like playing over backing tracks has to be one of the most addicting things about playing the guitar. Once you get to a point where you are proficient enough to be able to just solo on your own over a backing track, that is such a great revelation, and that's when you will be hooked on playing guitar
Such a
completely.
good feeling.
Because when you can just make up stuff just without even thinking about it,
And it
um,
sounds good.
and it just comes through the speakers and it sounds perfect with the backing track. It takes a while and it takes time, but eventually
Sure
you really
does.
start to get the feel of how the music flows and how you can be a part of it while also standing out. And there's a lot of things to learn with improv as far as learning different licks and different how to get between different areas of the neck. It took me forever to figure out how to get it took me a long time to figure out how to get around the neck and not be stuck in one spot the whole time. That took
Yep,
me like
that is
many years. It took me probably 3 years before I really understood how to do it and can now do it. Um, there's just a lot of things that go into it. But once you get that moment, and Zane, you might know what I'm talking about, there's this moment that it like clicks and you just get this like chill down your spine and you're like, I'm going to do this
yep,
for the rest of my life. You know what I mean?
yes.
That is such a great feeling, and it's great
That's
when you see your guitar, or in my case at this point, guitars. You you see your guitar or your rack of guitars if you spend all your money on guitars, which you will. It happens to all of us, but I'm serious. But anyway.
Well, no, I'm only saying that. I'm only saying that because I find it funny because I've only been playing for like 3-4 months and I have a second guitar.
Yep. It happens just like that. That's just how it goes. Gear acquisition syndrome. But anyway.
Now I feel like a little bit weird because I'm looking at guitars all the time now, not to buy, but.
Well, that's what
just
you
for the,
say,
like, the way
right?
they
That's
look.
what everybody says. That's what we all say.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I'll look at it because they look real pretty.
Yeah.
I'm like, damn, that's nice. But
gosh,
I'm a
wouldn't
little
that look
nervous
great on my
'cause
wall in my rack?
Because
no.
I have 4 guitars in my cart. I'm like, I'm just looking. That's all I'm doing.
I'm just looking and putting them in the basket that's one button away from purchase. Oops!
So,
I bumped it.
Understand.
Not gonna cancel
like,
that. That would just take way too much work, and
it's like I want to get more guitars, but I also enjoy my relationship, So it's like,
yeah,
it's like what trade-off,
I'm lucky. I have a very, very supportive girlfriend of my my hobbies. Just like any good significant other, though, she does get concerned if I spend too much money. But
well, yeah, like I was gonna say,
but she is rather supportive. So
yeah, she supports it, but she's like, listen, she's like, you can't, like, you're only a few months in.
Yeah.
She's like, at least wait till you're a little bit better.
There's a tough balance to be had between give me more now, and like I the best way to do it is to reward yourself for achievements, I feel like.
Yeah.
For example, set a song that is just completely out of your ability. Set a song that is completely out of your reach. Once you can play that song completely and fully all the way through without like hiccuping, like once you achieve that level of skill that song requires, buy yourself a new guitar. Work on it for months, and then once you get it, buy yourself a new guitar. You earned it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because I'll look at guitars and I'll show her, and she's like, "Oh, that's like, she's like, it's a really nice guitar. Like, it looks really nice." And I'm like, "Isn't it great?" And she'll be like,
"Isn't she pretty?"
She'll be like, "Why is it there in your cart there, huh?" I'm like.
And then and meanwhile you're like, oh, how'd it get there? Like you like actually don't know. You like blacked out. Now you have 6 of them in your cart. Your fingers hovering over by, and then she like shakes you out of it. She's like, Zane. And you're like, what? Where was I? Where am I?
Yeah, well, because she told me the other day, she's like, listen, I know you keep looking at guitars. It's like all you're doing when we're laying in bed and we're supposed to be going to bed. You're just surfing down Reverb. She's like, listen. She's like, you could. She's like, I don't mind if you get a guitar. She's like, but can you just wait till you're like a little better, so it's like justified that you get a $1,000 or $800 or $600 guitar.
Yeah.
She's like, can you just wait till you're like better?
That's fair though.
Which is fair.
Yeah,
it's a fair point.
Fair
I can't
request.
say she's wrong.
But that's the thing. That's the nice thing. That's why you have to have a girlfriend who is supportive, because they will know what's too far and what's just you spending on your hobby that you enjoy. Because there's a balance, and we all try to go too far.
Well, because she had no problem. She had no problem with the second guitar, and she had absolutely no problem with me buying the better amp. She had no issues with that.
Oh, the spark.
But she's like, listen. She's like, maybe you don't need the $1,000 one yet,
You have a fistful of cash in your hand, and you're like, oh.
No. As she's saying it, I have like my card out and I'm typing my card number in. I'm like, I'm not gonna buy it. Don't worry.
No. I'm just pretending.
I'm saving it for later. Okay, that's what it's in here for.
I'm just giving him the money now, and then when I want it, I'll tell him to ship it. Or
I'm
like,
just paying for it. I'm just paying for it, but it's not gonna come here. It has at least a week to ship, so I'm not buying it right now. Okay,
or
it's gonna get here in a week.
better yet, it's just like, I'm gonna buy it now, but I won't open it until I'm better. And then you're like a kid, then you're like a kid on Christmas peeking and, taking an early peek at your presents,
Speaking of, to rear this back to the topic, you
Yeah.
don't need expensive gear to
Yes,
become a good
I was hoping to
guitarist.
segue there too. Cool.
You do not need expensive gear to play good on the guitar.
Exactly. And a story that I wanted to bring up that has to do directly with that is, I saw it on Instagram, but I think it was Two and a Half Men is what the clip was taken from, but it was a show with Charlie Sheen in it. Charlie Sheen goes to the bathroom and he knocks on the door to the bathroom and it's just like, oh, it's locked, there's someone in there. And he's like, just a second, you hear it. And then all of a sudden the door opens and it's Eddie Van Halen with his guitar. And he has like one of those tiny little Marshall clip-on pocket amps. And then he's like, Charlie Sheen is like, you bring your guitar in there? And he's like, you never know when inspiration might strike. And then he just rips off this beautiful Eddie Van Halen style solo. And then and then he walks away, and then Charlie Sheen goes to the bathroom. But the comment of that post was so accurate because it said even when playing through a crappy little pocket amp, he still sounds like Eddie. You know what I mean? And that's exactly the case, because I look at, there's a tough balance, especially when you're buying a new guitar or your first guitar, especially. Because when you're buying your first guitar, on one hand, no, you don't have to break the bank. On the other hand, spend enough to where it's an investment. You know what I mean? You don't want it to be like a toy you purchased that you might try to learn. You want it to be like, I bought this because I'm going to learn it. And you want to buy something that's nice enough to where you see it in the corner and you're like, ooh, I want to pick that up and try to play it again,
But like, if you're not the richest person, because let's face it, me and Colton are not the richest people on the planet here.
Certainly not after I became a musician.
Like, when I was looking for, because I bought a very inexpensive guitar to me to like how I viewed it. It was pretty inexpensive, but like, I had the opportunity to get a guitar that was double that money, and I have that guitar. But the cheaper guitar is the one I prefer, believe it or not.
Oh, your other one, it was an SG, right? The second one?
Yeah.
And that came
SG,
in?
and yeah, that's right here.
Oh, cool.
How's
that treating you?
I prefer my other one still. I still like it, but this is what I actually made me really happy about getting a second guitar, is that I can actually hear. Because I'll keep my amp settings the same.
Yep.
I'll plug them in, and there's a very noticeable difference in the sound.
Yep. That just has to do with the tone wood, and then the pickups as well is a big part of that.
I just thought that's a really that gives me more confidence in buying another instrument if I wanted one to have it not sound the same.
For sure.
But yeah, I bought a guitar that was double the money of my Squier Strat, but I prefer it playing it more,
Mm-hmm.
So where I personally didn't put as much financial investment in my first guitar, it's the guitar that I'm gonna pick up first. It's the guitar that I'm gonna feel more passionate about,
Yeah,
So
for sure. And I guess what I would say when it comes to buying your first guitar, buy what you can afford. But I would say it's a tough balance, right? Because you want to make sure it's going to be something you want to use, right? But you don't want to break the bank because you really aren't totally sure if you're going to be able to stick with it. I understand that. What I would say there is get a guitar that you think is nice enough to where it'll play nice, it'll sound decent, because that's another thing. You don't want to learn on a total piece of garbage that doesn't function, because then you're not going to sound good and it's not your fault.
Real quick, to just add a point in here, just don't, if you maybe just got paid, maybe have like a little bit of extra money. Don't just like go on Amazon, type in guitar, filter like the cheapest and like the top 10, and then buy the first one you see. You know,
Yeah, bad
like
idea. Don't buy a guitar off of
that.
Amazon, period.
Well, no, I'm saying like, um,
But I know what you mean, yeah.
but just like don't go in that direction because that like let's say it's $80, a guitar is gonna get sent to you. Um, just wait.
Yeah, for sure. Save
Like
up.
maybe like if you have that money, that $80, and you're really interested in playing, don't spend it on some like crappy, no named, absolutely no quality,
No, spend your 80
not like
bucks.
no quality.
Spend your 80 bucks on honestly the only guitar that I could recommend that is cheaper than my like usual lowest recommended price, is the Harley Benton lineup of guitars. They have some very good guitars. I bought my double neck SG from Harley Benton, and that was incredibly cheap, and it plays really well, and I really like it. So, I mean, they sell options that are only like, I think they have a Telecaster, like a metal, made for metal Telecaster style body that is like, I want to say $90, and then, it'd probably
Yeah, I was gonna
be
say
$130.
they also have a gorgeous Strat type that's all gray with the maroon pickguard, and that's like $80.
Yeah, and then to get it shipped from Germany, it would be about probably another 30 to $50 somewhere in there. But so you'd be paying about 130, 140, whatever that might be.
So instead of buying just like the first cheap guitar you see, maybe do like a tad bit of research and wait till next paycheck
My
and just double your
suggestion,
money.
yeah, for sure. I would say my suggestion: don't spend anything less than 180 bucks on your first guitar. That's my like, well, maybe 150, or I would say Harley Benton is my exception to this rule, because Harley Benton has so far not let me down. I would say that they have some pretty good guitars for a lot cheaper than you can find in most places. So I'm excluding Harley Benton from this, but if you're buying from any other brand and any other like marketplace, I wouldn't spend less than maybe 160, because you get what you pay for in a lot of situations like that. You're gonna get a guitar, especially like if it's an acoustic too. The action is too high, the nut isn't filed down, or the glue work isn't good, or the finish is chipped, or there's a million different things that can be,
And I'm
can
not
go
a
wrong.
I'm not a brand name person,
Same.
especially with guitars. I have no loyalty to them.
Yep.
But if you're going to buy a cheaper guitar, maybe try and buy off of like a big brand's lower lines, because at least the quality control will be there.
Yeah, unless it's Gibson.
You know. Well, unless it's Gibson.
No, buy whatever you want. I just don't like Gibson. They're okay, but they charge way too much money for guitars that just don't stack up to that price point anymore. But
Yeah, but like that's what I'm saying. At least with the Squire, when that came in the mail, I know it was used, but
yeah,
it was pretty. It was barely out of tune when I was tuning it up for the first time. The neck is so smooth. It's such a comfortable thing to play. It's just the quality's there for not as much money as an actual Fender Strat. So
yeah,
if you don't need to get the $1,000 instrument, but if you want to start out, like I said, just maybe go with the lesser.
yeah. That's the other
The
thing. The other thing I would say is that I'd say you wouldn't want to spend less, than 160. I would also say don't spend more than like 350 at the most. Don't spend a
and
fortune on
that's
your first instrument.
yeah, and that's like I agree with a heavy like caveat, because like if you have like 350 and like you want to spend it on a guitar, which you're already getting a way better quality than a
Yeah,
$160
there's a big
like
jump
guitar.
once you get past like $200. The jump between $200 and $300 is a big quality difference. But I would
And
say
if you
like,
have that
yeah, go ahead.
if you have that 350 to spend and you're looking at guitars and you already have one picked out, but as you're looking you see another one that's like 450, and maybe that's like another paycheck for you to save up, or maybe like you really like the look of that one. I would say like if your heart was in that direction more, go for the 51. Just wait a little longer, save.
Yeah, you want to
You know,
buy an instrument that, like I've said before, you want to be able to look at it and get excited to want to play it. And if that means you spend 450 instead of 350, fine. There's exceptions to every rule and everyone can manage their own money. But my general rule of thumb is, I would say between 160 and 350 is all I would say to spend on your first
and
instrument, cuz you can
if you
always go
are
buy that $500 guitar later, that $600 guitar. You can always buy that once you've begun learning how to play and you've advanced and you can set goals for yourself and all that.
and if you are an actual millionaire
Oh,
and
yeah.
you do
Okay.
decide to buy a $3,000 guitar and a like $5,000 amp,
Yeah.
right? And you plug in, you're not going to play as good as someone who's playing on a $80 Harley Benton that's been playing for even just like a year more than you.
Yep. Yep.
So it's not about the price of your instrument;
No.
it's the
And also,
passion you
if
put
you're a
into it.
millionaire watching this, subscribe to my Patreon and help fund the show.
Yep, I'll
Throw me
put
a
my
couple
routing number in
bucks.
there. Put my routing number in and my account number, and you could just slide some stuff in, like for me also.
That would be so horrible. Yeah, yeah. We'll leave our bank account information in the description below.
And you could just fill it whatever if you're a millionaire. It's
Bro,
okay.
what's your social?
So that'll be zero.
No.
No.
Oh goodness. Oh, that's crazy.
But
But yeah, play guitar. It's great. It's something you can do for the rest of your life. Sports and a lot of that kind of stuff. You can do it until you get old.
but look at BB King, man. My
Yeah.
my my homie was 92 on his tour, and he was still slapping tone through those fingers.
Well, exactly. I mean, music is truly something you can do for your whole life. It's something that can make you happy and engage you and keep your brain thinking in creative ways your whole life. I mean, I would never, ever say in any scenario that music is going to be bad for you because that's not
And if
true.
it's not guitar, pick up an instrument.
Yeah. Learn
It just
piano,
it just
learn the
it
harmonica.
it if you find the passion for it, it just elevates your quality of life. And let's say you don't want to play an instrument, like let's say you really don't have the time or you're just not interested in playing one, expand your music tastes.
Yeah.
Find passion in music.
It's awesome. I mean, and that's the thing. I feel like there's something out there for everyone when it comes to music because music is
Mm-hmm.
such a broad thing. I mean, music could mean anything from like African tribal drumming to like modern pop, in America. It's all over the
Mm-hmm.
place. Music is a broad term that spans all of humanity's history, It's
It's the one
really
thing that
cool.
I think glues the world together.
I agree.
It's like you can't go to and like I know there might be some like huge five head 2 million IQ, right? That's gonna like say something to me or like try and disprove what I'm saying,
Yeah.
because I get it. There's different languages and other culture and
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
other forms of how people do their traditions.
Yeah.
But I feel like music is just that universal
Yeah.
thing, you know?
I
Like it's
haven't
just
seen a
that.
lot of cultures that don't have some form of singing or, something.
No, no. See, that's what I was gonna say. No, see, I was gonna say that, but I didn't want some like five head to be like, well, every culture has its own writing too, or whatever, you know. Like
Well,
I
yeah.
don't know. I
I
don't
mean,
know all that.
to my knowledge, I've heard of certain cultures, like not not thinking it's okay to use instruments. Like I've heard of that before, where like any
Really?
instrumental music is like not okay. I don't remember what it is, and I'm not even gonna pretend like I know because I don't want to get in trouble and be
But that's another thing. Singing is still music. Sing your
exactly.
heart out.
Exactly. You can. I mean, it's hard to find. Some of the most popular religions in the world too are very singing heavy and music heavy. You know, it's just a great way to reach people in general. There's music for everyone. It's great. Pick up an instrument, please. I mean, like,
It'll
do
make your life
yourself a
so much
favor.
better.
Do yourself a favor.
Because you just put in, even just, like, let's say you put a year's worth of your life into this instrument on and off, and you can play comfortably. Like, like, you can officially say you know how to play, but you're not the best and you don't want to improve. That's fine. That
Yeah.
year that you can just sit down and play something and enjoy it, that's all you need in life.
Be that campfire hero. You know?
Exactly.
Be the
Be that
person who
guy,
shows up to
man.
the campfire with your guitar. Or in the case of our friend Matt, we went camping once and he showed up with a melodica, I think it's called. It's like piano keys with like a tube coming out of it, and you had to blow into this tube, and he played the keys with his fingers, and it sounded really, really weird. And he would sit and play sea shanties on it. And so, like, but even so, play the melodica, play the harmonica, play
A frickin' squishy
automaton, the little meh, those things. You
no,
don't talk.
no. I was gonna say the squishy, snaky pianos, the freaking accordion.
Oh,
That...
the squishy snake pianos.
Yeah, just play those.
Oh,
You know,
goodness.
like the sandwiches. Play the accordions.
Oh gosh, that really got me. The squishy snake pianos. Oh, that's incredible.
Play those.
Oh man, but yeah, seriously, music is truly one of those things that, like, it's brought me just endless joy in life. You know, it's brought me just so much good things. It helps you meet people too. That's the other great thing is music.
It
Is
sure
like,
does.
when you, as Zane put it in a previous episode, if you also speak the widdly widdly wow,
The whittly
the
diddly.
widdly diddly, if you find another person who speaks that language, and sounds just as crazy as you do, you're gonna have a very good time. You know, it's just one of those things where we all speak the language of music in one way or another. We all understand it, you know, but learning how to play it puts you on the creative side, and it really lets you be who you want to be as far as, you know, what you do. Because, for example, just looking at myself, I'm an engineer. You know, I'm an engineering student. I'm recording this, you know, in my dorm room. I'm going to college. I'm going to be an engineer. And there is not a lot of creativity in engineering. Like, there is, obviously, but engineering is a lot more about science, hard facts, you know, computing, very, you know, not expressive stuff for the most part. But that's where I get that release, and that's where I get that creative expression, is through all of my music and doing the show and doing the podcast and working on my album and all that stuff. It's like, music is something that I know I'm going to do for the rest of my life, you know, as long as I'm physically
As
able
I
to
said
do
before,
so.
man, like, you're sad, listen to music. It'll cheer you up, depending on what
Mm-hmm.
you listen to. You're happy. There's music to help you be more happy.
Mm-hmm.
There's music for every situation on the planet.
Absolutely.
It's just so diverse.
Mm-hmm.
Music
Yeah.
is great.
Yeah,
Play
absolutely.
music right now.
Yep, do it. You won't.
Right now.
You won't.
Go to YouTube. Go to Spotify. Go to Apple Music. I don't even know if that is what it's called, because I don't have.
Don't go to Apple Music.
Just I don't.
I'm
I
kidding.
don't
I'm
know.
kidding. I'm kidding. That's personal bias.
I don't have any Apple stuff, but
Yeah,
just
me
go
either.
wherever you can. Go to music.
Go wherever you
shuffle.
can go to music.
Hit shuffle on whatever playlist you have, and if it's not rock, it's trash. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
There's music for every situation under the sun, rock music. And yeah, you have to. Oh goodness.
If it's not the blues, you're not listening to music. That's not real music.
Well, Zane, I don't know if you believe it or not, but somehow we've already managed to run out of time. We're already up to our last 30
You're kicking me out,
seconds.
aren't you?
Huh? I'm not kicking you out. We'll probably continue this conversation post episode.
Kicking me out.
Well, yeah. in next week, you guys will see another episode of Riftjaw, and the week after that, we'll be back with another podcast. So stay tuned for that. Love all you guys. Thank you for sticking around until the very end of the podcast.
Can I say
Appreciate
one
you guys. Yeah, go ahead.
If you guys are enjoying this and you like our conversations, and you also are a big fan of music or anything music related, why don't you just, comment a topic you about?
You
Get a
repeat
little
that one
more
more time.
involved,
You cut out for just a second, but I think I know what you said.
Oh, I said, why don't you just comment and tell us the topic you'd like us to speak about?
Yeah, for
Get a
sure.
little more involved. Let us know how we could provide the best content for you, what you'd want to hear.
We're still going to talk about whatever we want, but yeah.
Well, in addition to what you suggest.
Yeah, exactly. We'll pick what we like from you guys.
Yeah, because I'm assuming there's going to be a lot of trash ideas. But
no, we don't put the audience down. You guys are great.
I'm kidding.
You guys are great. All right, well, I will see you guys next time, whenever that may be. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we are out. Have a good one.
Peace out.